the next administration that there's no doubt in anyone's mind that they will be faced with the challenges that their predecessors were faced with. So for those who think that infectious diseases is gone, there's so many people who've made foolhardy statements not knowing at the time that they made them. I usually show a quote from an old Surgeon General or an old pundit in infectious disease.
Now, I won't play the whole video, but I will delete the link for you guys. But that was very interesting to me. It's like, you're going to face this. So my question was always, is this a buildup? Is this a setup? Like, what's really going on, right? Here's another blast from the past.
Because a lot of what you're seeing as attacks on me, quite frankly, are attacks on science. Because all of the things that I have spoken about consistently from the very beginning have been fundamentally based on science. Sometimes those things were inconvenient truths for people, and there was pushback against me. So if you are trying to, get at me as a public health official and a scientist, you're really attacking not only Dr. Anthony Fauci, you're attacking science. You have to be asleep not to see that. That is what's going on. Science and the truth are being attacked.
We hear from a physician in Durham, North Carolina. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Dr. Fauci.
Good morning.
And, Pedro. You've been at the NIH a pretty long time, and it seems to me that during your tenure, our ability to control infectious diseases hasn't improved, but in fact worsened. And even basic health tips such as you can't use antibiotics to treat viral infections has not been adequately communicated to the public. But don't you think it's time that you step down and let someone else who has a more effective message?
Actually, no.
The emails paint a disturbing picture of Dr. Fauci from the very beginning worrying that he had been funding gain-of-function research. And he knows it to this day, but hasn't admitted. We have to get Democrat counterparts that will actually use the committee hearings to investigate this. There's a lot of evidence that he has a great deal of conflict of interest, and that if it turns out this virus came from the Wuhan lab, which it looks like it did, that there's a great deal of culpability in that he was a big supporter of the funding, but he also was a big supporter to this day of saying we can trust the Chinese on this. We can trust the Chinese scientists. And I think that's quite naive and really should preclude him from the position that he's in.
Okay. Yeah. One more.
It is a crime to lie to Congress. Do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function.
So
let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans.
Right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about. Okay, you get
NIH,
one person.
Let's read from the NIH definition of gain of function. This is your definition that you guys wrote. It says that scientific research that increases the transmissibility among mammals is gain of function. They took animal viruses that only occur in animals and they increased their transmissibility to humans. How you can say that is not gain of function?
It is not.
It's a dance, and you're dancing around this because you're trying to obscure responsibility for 4 million people dying around the world from a pandemic.
And let's send Dr. Fauci.
I have to, well, now you're getting into something. If the point that you are making is that the grant that was funded as a sub-award from EcoHealth to Wuhan created SARS-CoV-2. That's where you are getting. Let me finish.
We don't know.
Well, wait a minute.
It did come from the lab, but all the evidence is pointing that it came from the lab, and there will be responsibility for those who funded the lab, including yourself.
I totally
This committee will allow the witness to respond.
I totally resent the lie that you are now propagating, Senator, because if you look at the viruses that were used in the experiments, that were given in the annual reports that were published in the literature,
It is molecularly impossible.
No one's saying those viruses caused it.
It
no
is
one is alleging that
molecularly.
those viruses caused the pandemic. What we're alleging is that gain-of-function research was going on in that lab, and NIH funded it.
That
you
is
can't
not.
get away from it. It meets your definition, and you are obfuscating the truth.
I'm not obfuscating the truth.
Senator
You're the
Paul's
one.
Time is expired, but I will.
Yeah, that happened. Okay. That happened. That happened, everyone. So now let's jump to the pardon that Joe Biden gave to Fauci. Let's talk about it. So I said, can you give me the legal standing for the pardon given to Dr. Fauci and why he used the Fifth Amendment in the latest hearing? If he was already pardoned, right? Also, can you find if the NIH that he testified to did not fund gain-of-function research was listed in the pardon? Because when you go through the pardon, the only entity that's not listed for him to be pardoned for is the NIH. The question that Rand Paul answered and what he said was, it's not a matter of the gain of function, it's who funded it. Did they fund it or not? It was crazy. Is it different or wrong? Why would he need to be pardoned? Absolutely. And the bigger question is the date of the pardoning. So let's get into it. So President Biden used a preemptive, full and unconditional federal pardon to Dr. Anthony Fauci, not to the NIH as an entity. Totally separate, right? But he was the director of the NIH, just saying, on January 19, 2025, under Article 2, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution. So here's the official pardon: a full and unconditional pardon for any offenses against the United States which he may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 1st, 2014. When did the pandemic happen? Wasn't that like 2020 when he was brought back on? Why did it go all the way back to 2014? Yeah, that's the bigger question. This is through the date of this pardon arising. So from 2014 up until 2025. Pardon, right? Arising from or in any manner related to his service as director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, which is the NIAID, as a member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force of the White House COVID-19 response team, or as chief medical advisor to the president. There is no mention of NIH at all. And that's the question that Rand Paul was stating. He was like, it's not the matter of the gain of function research. Did you fund it or didn't you? And they did. And they admitted to it. I mean, he said, he goes, well, the research is funded. Yeah, it was. But then did that gain of function research lead to where we're at now? Or lead to what had happened? Yeah, it's very crazy. Very crazy. So Biden's accompanying statement framed it as protection against baseless and politically motivated investigations, right? He's back on the stand. And threats of prosecution. Okay. Explicitly stating it was not an acknowledgement of wrongdoing. Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? I've played you the videos. I'm just saying. So the presidential pardon power is broad and long-standing Supreme Court precedent. Treat it as essentially unlimited for federal offenses against the United States. It can be granted for charges during proceedings or after conviction and covers past conduct. Okay, preemptive blanket pardons for specific periods and roles have historical precedent and have generally been treated as valid, though very broad or future conduct pardons raise theoretical questions that have not been definitely tested in this exact form. Yes, it's a lot going on. So why Fauci invoked the Fifth Amendment on the 26th. Fauci appeared under subpoena before Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee. In his opening statement, he said he was invoking the Fifth on advice of counsel because of what he described as